Welcome to a very special episode. Recently, I not only had the opportunity to attend the Southern Ohio Regional, but also to do some interviews with some terrific people in the watch and clock field. And they are going to show you some spectacular pieces today. There were also representatives from the national leadership of the NAWCC who were very gracious with their time and encouragement. And you're going to meet two of them today. And so without further ado, let's begin. Hello, I am here at the Southern Ohio Regional with Richard from the national office. Richard, would you care to share about what's happening here?
Yeah, wonderful. We're at one of our regional events that takes place throughout the year at various locations around the country. We're in Wilmington, Ohio, where there's a big educational and mart, as you can see in the background, taking place. This is open for members as well as the public to come and experience all of the joys of collecting, both watches, clocks, wristwatches, if you like early books, tooling. You can find just about anything you want to find here. In fact, as I was walking around, I saw a couple of clocks actually from the late 17th century, all the way forward to this display that's sort of off to our right, that's on electric horology, with a lot of items here that even go to the 1950s. As I mentioned, these events take place around the country during the year, and we have a huge event coming up this July at our headquarters location, which is in Columbia, Pennsylvania, very close to Lancaster, and we're celebrating the 80th anniversary of the national organization, which was actually created back in 1943. And at that event, we have something like 25 lectures and workshops, hands-on, some of them hands-on workshops taking place, as well as a tremendous antique collecting mart that'll be taking place, and it's during the second week of July. And all the information about the National Association of Watch and Clock Collectors is on our website, nawcc.org, where you can find more information about attending shows like this or the national convention.
Richard, could you share a little bit about the museum? And if people haven't experienced that, why they should?
The museum is an awesome place. It's actually the largest museum dedicated to timekeeping in North America. It's huge. And as I mentioned, it's located in Columbia, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was the location of a lot of tremendous both clock and watchmaking. Of course, Lancaster was the home of Hamilton Watch Company, and we have a tremendous amount of interesting materials around Hamilton, including many of their earliest watches and prototype watches. The museum itself was established in the 1970s and is basically a collector's museum. Most of the artifacts that are there came from important collectors around the world that have donated things to the museum, and there's now something like 30,000 objects that are housed in that facility. In addition to the museum itself, we have the largest museum and research library. So for scholars and collectors who want to learn about their objects, we have a tremendous library that's located in the same building, and one can come and perform research there as well. The collection is actually very interesting because although we call ourselves the National Watch and Clock Collectors Association, the collection there is world-class, and you can find everything there from early Renaissance clocks, of course, through a marvelous collection on American horology. But if you're interested in English clocks and watches, wristwatches, as I mentioned, French clocks, Italian clocks, Asian clocks, there's various exhibits there. And a lot of the items are, of course, running. And we have a tremendous number of docents that would be more than happy to discuss any items that you might be interested in seeing.
Thank you for sharing that. And I have been to the museum back in 2016. I went with my family, and it was amazing. It's definitely worth the trip to check out. And I understand you have classes also at in Pennsylvania there too.
We do. As I mentioned, this association is really works because of the tremendous volunteers we have, just ordinary people like me, like you, people that are interested in helping out. And we have a school of horology with a professional school that's located just across the street from the museum. And we conduct classes there on how to repair and conserve clocks and watches. And the schedule there is really dictated by demand. In fact, we get many examples where individuals come to us and say, gee, we'd love to learn more about engine turning or something of that nature, and we put together a class around engine turning. And in fact, that's actually something that'll be hopefully taking place during the National Convention in July. The school, as I mentioned, is a separate school. It's well kitted out. And of course, being only across the street from the museum, one has the opportunity to not only have some great education with whatever topic you'd like to learn about, but then 30 seconds later, you can walk into the museum and see tremendous examples of things that you might have seen only on YouTube or other areas, but not in person. And seeing things in person and being able to, really handle items really is a whole nother experience.
Now, Richard, what are some of the benefits of joining the NAWCC?
The NAWCC, as I hear, is one of the best kept secrets. So we need your help to get the word out. Actually, membership is very inexpensive. First-time members, I think, is somewhere between $50 and $60 a year. That gets you access to the museum, also access to our publications. The Watch and Clock Bulletin is published 6 times a year and is available online. It gives you a store of all of our research materials, many of which are online, serial number databases for wristwatches and the like. All of our prior bulletins are online. We have a tremendous website, nawcc.org, and we also run the largest forums in the world. There's something like 40,000 active participants on the forum, so you can get on there and post pictures of your watches or clocks, ask questions, get a lot of feedback. And one of the most important things that I feel I've gotten out of this organization is you really meet lifelong friends. You meet people that have similar interests. You meet them online. Sometimes you never even get to meet the person, in person. But it doesn't matter. You form these great relationships through the NAWCC and the forums. So magazines, membership, being able to go to great events like this or the National Convention, those are all things that are open to members.
Thank you for sharing, Richard. And is there anything else you'd want to say to the audience today? Or?
Well, I think just in closing, what I would say is we're really an organization that is a nonprofit. We run a very lean type of headquarters and operation that we have. And I just want to emphasize that if you have interesting clocks, watches, materials that you'd like to write about, an article you'd like to learn more about, we're really receptive to seeing what's going on in the community. And whether you're located here in the US or in Europe, we have members from all over the world. You're welcome. Just come and participate. And I think you'll really enjoy it.
Well, Richard, thank you so much for sharing today. And do you have any clocks that you're interested in purchasing today here? You found anything?
Well, it's funny that you should ask. There's a couple of things that I'm looking at, and there's actually a really interesting table here that has many old vintage Omega and Breitling watches. And so I think it's time for me to add another wristwatch to my collection, because my wrist is now open to buy another one.
I would say so. Well, Richard, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to meet with me for this interview, and I appreciate all the work that you do with the NAWCC. So,
well, thanks, and thanks for having me, and let's have fun.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, this is probably from the 1930s. They commonly call them picture clocks, and several of them are out there with German movements in them, and you get the moving eyes. On the escapement, there is a wire that trips back and forth, and you move the eyes with it.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That would be creepy at night.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the movement, see how all this is connected. So it looks like it's just a time and strike,
Time and strike.
and it's a German movement, right?
Yes.
And this would date from the 1930s.
1930s.
Did they make any earlier than that were?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that there's probably quite a few, and they're done in different variations. Some of them were painted on boards and things like that. You get the Black Forest type manufacturers that did lions and people's heads and stuff like that, and had the motion involved in them. One set of eyes, sometimes two set of eyes. And Sonia made one called American Gothic that I owned at one time, and that had, of course, the farmer and his wife and two sets of eyes moving back and forth. And there's some pretty unusual ones out there and a lot of variations. I also own one that is a Austrian one that's Samson and Goliath, and he's chopped the head, or David and Goliath, excuse me, David and Goliath, right? Okay, David and Goliath, and he's chopped the head off, and he's holding the head, and the beheaded his eyes are moving, and he's got 4 dials, silk thread from the 1780s, so they get pretty old.
Well, hey everyone, I am here at the Ohio Regional with Jordan, and Jordan is a watchmaker, and I'm gonna have him tell you about his watch company and the beautiful watches that he makes here.
Yeah, so I'm with Cincinnati Watch Company. We've been around since 2018, designing and building watches in Cincinnati, Ohio. So everything that we make takes inspiration from our local community, from the art and architecture and history of Cincinnati. And with the sale of every watch, we give back to a local organization. So some of our most popular watches is the Union Terminal watch, which takes inspiration from our train station, the Cincinnati's Union Terminal, which has a gorgeous clock on the front of it, Art Deco style. It's been by far our most popular watch. And then we've got other watches that take inspiration from the Gruen Watch Company, which was based in Cincinnati, who did much the same thing we do today. They did their design, but they imported components and put them together in Cincinnati. And so we're kind of carrying forward that heritage, and first company to do so since Gruen left, and I think it was 67, somewhere around there they left Cincinnati. But we're glad that watchmaking's back in Cincinnati now.
And do you have a website where people looking online can look at your?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. So our watches are available at www.cincinnatiwatch.com. You'll see everything we've got there. Also do repair work through there, not just our own brand, but other brands there. And occasionally we feature some vintage timepieces that we've restored as well there. But primarily you're going to find our product line at our website.
How long have you been doing this, Jordan?
So I've been doing watchmaking. I got a job in a jewelry store. I was in college back in 2001 and sort of gravitated towards the watch side of things. And then I went to watchmaking school in 2004 at the Lidditz Watch Technicum. And I've been doing full-time watches ever since. I started doing primarily repairs in jewelry stores. And then it's in the last few years that I ventured out with Cincinnati Watch Company and doing both designing and building in addition to the repair work.
you showed this Art Deco watch here. What are some other favorites of your customers?
So
Like to look at here?
The most recent watch we launched was our field watch. Kind of the thing you'd want, rugged outdoors, you know, in the military. It's got the 24-hour indications as well as the 12-hour.
Okay.
It's got a textured dial. It has a Swiss-made automatic movement in it, so it's a Solita movement. This guy's $549.
Okay.
We have a pilot's styled watch, aviation watch, that takes inspiration from airplanes at the Tri-State War Museum in Batavia. Those are some of our more popular right now. We've got a new watch that we're just launching right now called the Concourse, which takes inspiration from another clock at our train station that was inside the Concourse, which has since been demolished. But a really cool Art Deco clock that's available for pre-sale now. I don't have any to show off today because next Thursday is a launch event, the first time people are going to get to see it in person.
Okay. Are there pictures?
But there are pictures on our website.
Okay. Do you mind if I post that?
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank you so much for your time today and showing your watches. And is there anything else you'd want to say?
You know, just in the spirit of your channel and everything you do, is that we need more watchmakers, we need more clockmakers in the world, more people who are interested in this stuff. For me, it's totally interesting. I love every day that I go to work and I get to work on watches. It's a good day. And so I say, if you're into this stuff, go for it. There's plenty of work, and we definitely need more people doing it.
So hey, I'm still at the NAWCC Southern Ohio Regional, and I ran into a national board member. This is John.
Hello.
John has something special to show us today. So John, what do you have here to?
Well, you know, it's interesting. We are a growing organization. We're evolving. Everybody thinks that we were probably just a group of old clock and pocket watch collectors, but we are getting massive quantities of new members who are younger people and older people like me who are interested in wristwatches. And I thought I'd love to take you around and introduce you to a couple of people and let them tell you the story of how the NAWCC benefits them, and you know, events like this benefit them in their collecting of wristwatches. So Seth, this is my friend Ryan. Ryan is the same age as my son, and it's really cool to see young people who are as obsessed with wristwatches as I am here. Ryan, tell us why you come to NAWCC events. What's the benefit?
Oh, well, a friend of mine, Ravi, I met actually doing a watch transaction, and he told me about NAWCC. I'd never heard of vintage watch shows, really. And from the first show, I was hooked. I got to handle these watches that I look at online constantly, and I had the obsession for years. But when I came here, I got to look at them, and I met people that were knowledgeable, and it really gave me the education and the confidence to really, get into the hobby. And since then, I started my own business with buying and selling watches. So it's really been a great resource for me.
So you've been doing this for a little while, and I know your loves in watches are diverse. Do you have a couple of watches that you could show, Ryan? I mean, I know you like Rolex.
So this is a DHS 16220. It's about from I think 89 or 90. It's a good watch. I bought it last year at one of these shows, and a watch I was going to sell, but I just decided to keep, and I wear it regularly.
And how about, not everything is a Rolex. I'm fascinated by these. It's the only battery-powered watches that I like, but want to tell a little bit about the Space View?
Yeah, so this is a 1971 Space View. They call it the Space View T. It's a larger case model, and just a great different watch. I don't know, something different not many people know about, but they're very cool pieces.
But while we're on the subject of electronic watches, I'm not as obsessed with these, but man, an American watch, they're like the progenitors of all electronic watches. You want to talk a little bit about this space age little electronic Hamilton?
Yeah, so this is a Ventura, Hamilton Ventura.
Didn't Elvis wear one of those?
Yeah, Elvis Presley wore one of these, famous for wearing one of these. What year would this have been, like 52, 53?
Yeah, that one might be a little bit later than that. And it's got an amazing and innovative movement that got people interested in making an electronic watch. It was kind of a dead end, but amazing design from an American company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, our home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very influential.
Yeah. And then we'll go to the Sublime later, but I love this watch. Talk to me about that a little bit.
So this is a Omega early 30T2 RG. It has a scientific dial, just a spectacular looking piece. This would have been late 40s probably, John?
I think so, yeah. Maybe
Beautiful
even earlier,
watch,
who knows?
Larger case than most of them. It's a really beautiful
The dial
piece.
is just phenomenal for a watch that old. I mean, stuff like this is what you turn up at an NAWCC show if you're really lucky.
Yep. Takes a lot of searching, definitely.
And then how about, this is one of my favorite watches. We're at our national event this year. We're sponsored by Breitling, and this is not a Breitling, but we're going to be obsessed with pilots' watches. And this is an early Longines pilot watch. What can you tell us?
It's from about, I think, 1944. It's a caliber 13 ZN chronograph. Really, really legendary movement from a legendary company.
Amazing shape. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you turn up at what everybody thinks is just an old clock show. The NAWCC is getting to be a lot about wristwatches.
Yeah, one of my favorite pieces out of all these, definitely.
Well, that's great. Great to talk to you, Ryan. It's wonderful to see the young people who are internet obsessed and watch obsessed, knowing that it's great to actually hold a watch in your hand before you buy it.
Mm-hmm. No better way to learn, I think.
Now, I'm really proud to introduce you to not one of the youngest guys maybe, but younger than me, my old friend Jorge Barcenas, a passionate watch collector. I've known him for a long time. Jorge, same thing. Why the NAWCC? Everybody thinks of it as old wooden clocks. It's not, is it?
It is not. It is amazing the things that you can find here. If you look at my stuff that I have here that I've been able to gather as I come to the shows.
Not a wristwatch, but I love that, and it's by a wristwatch company. Talk about that.
Oh my goodness, this is a Hoyer, what is called a split-second time watch, stopwatch, whatever you want to call it. It is just incredible that I was able to find it, and that it's running perfectly. As you can see, I was really, really shocked. You cannot find this on, at Marshalls or any place that you go to. You can only find it here at these places. And if you look at this Omega is from the 1940s. It's amazing. This thing is like probably older than me. And if I wasn't here, I would never be able to find anything like this. I mean, it's running. You get to talk to people that you know, that you've seen. You build relationships. You build trust with people.
It's got this beautiful white band.
Look at that, isn't that?
For special occasions, huh?
And also one thing that as you go through the watch collection, if you look at this watch, someone who doesn't know about the watch, they're like, man, that's a really ugly color on the dial. But that is aged to what is called a patina color on the dial. It is a really nice, exceptional watch. That it is a 3-register, it's a chronograph, that it works perfectly, it is nice and well kept. I mean, this is the things that when you come up here and you meet your friends, you'll be able to find. I always get excited when I come here.
Yeah, I'm not completely excited when I see Jorge at a show because we compete for those tool watch chronographs, don't we, man?
Well, you always got me, man. But hey, we're friends.
We're friends.
We're friends. We play nicely in the lot sense, so.
Good to see you, Jorge.
The same, John. Thank you, buddy.
I'd like to introduce two more of my friends, Charles Valentine and Jack Kern. Charles was a friend of my dad's who was in this organization really early. That's how old Charles is. And Dad used to call him Charlie. Hey, Charlie, tell us a little bit about why you love the NAWCC and how you find watches.
I've been a member since '86 and just had a love for watch collecting. Learned a lot through the years when collecting watches, from the vintage standpoint. I've come to respect the quality of the watches that are collected.
Speaking of quality, Charles, why don't you show us this beautiful pink gold Gublin that you've got here? That is one heck of a watch right there as far as I'm concerned.
It's an 18 karat Gublin automatic with the original box.
Screwback too, isn't it?
Screwback case. It's in pink gold, 18 karat. And this is a very fine Swiss watch.
That's a dress watch and a half, man. Charles, you've had some of the greatest watches I've seen in my life over the years. And Charles is from my hometown of Indy, and he's a fierce competitor on the local watch scene, I can tell you that. And how about Jack Kern, another old friend of mine, obsessed with some of the same chronograph tool watches that I am. Jack, why don't you show that little Abercrombie and Fitch?
Well, okay.
Or show this.
Well, this is one that I just bought today, and I owned the same watch years ago. And believe it or not, one of the local dealers showed up from Wisconsin, and he brought it, so I got one back.
And it's on its original bracelet too, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah,
wow.
This is Zodiac, a caliber 11 with a micro rotor movement. Beautiful watch. I'm glad to have one back on my wrist.
Jack has been an obsessive collector of especially like chronograph and dive tool watches for as long as I can remember. I love that little Abercrombie and Fitch Hoyer that you've got there.
Well, this was when Abercrombie and Fitch were a fine store instead of lately, and this watch was made by Jack Hoyer, and it is fully signed. It's a chronograph, fully signed by Jack Hoyer with a Valjo 72 movement. A very rare watch in super sensational condition. This was made approximately 1950 in that era, and it's highly collectible. It's just very hard watch to find in this condition it is too.
Pretty amazing what you can come up with at an NAWCC show. Thanks a lot, you guys. I appreciate it. Really do. Thanks, Charles.
You're welcome.
It's cool starting out with pocket watches for a wristwatch story, but we have a real special friend of mine here. Fred, I think I met you when you were 8 years old and you could barely see over a mart table. Is that right?
Sounds about right. That was a good height for seeing things.
And it was great because we were both obsessed with pocket watches, and both of us probably got more obsessed with wristwatches as the time goes on. And you grew up and got as tall as me.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. And
this is who I'm working for now, Jones Horan Auction.
It's a wristwatch, pocket watch, horological items, a great auction house that the NAWCC loves, and they have a great relationship with the NAWCC. Fred's been coming to these things for as long as, for pretty much as long as I have. See, People are excited here, I guess.
Yes, the enthusiasm's real here at the Mart Room.
But at Jones and Horan started out as a pocket watch auction, and you guys are getting more and more into high-end wristwatches.
Yes, we've had focus on watches since the 1980s, and in the last 15 years, wristwatches have become a huge portion of that equation for us.
Yeah, and you go for the very high end, the Patek Philippe's, the Rolex, the early Daytonas, and things like that, and you have dedicated curators of the auctions, from wristwatches to pocket watches to ephemera.
To coins and associated items, jewelry, a lot of categories now.
Right. And tell me how the NAWCC and Jones and Horan are cooperative. I know you've been coming to shows forever. You find a lot of your goods, and you find a lot of sources for your auction consignments,
Absolutely.
right?
Just
including me.
Exactly. No, so many great people who have collected many years, and we are very active on both sides, both as helping people sell and as helping fill their collection. And people, we've been customers and clients with us for decades, and sometimes they're more on the buying end, and sometimes more on the selling end, and sometimes busy on both.
And you've brought your kids. They went somewhere to eat, but that's the next generation of watch collectors, right?
The little ones running around.
You guys are up in New Hampshire, and it's getting to be mud season up there, isn't it?
It is. It is.
All right. Well, it's great to talk to you, Fred. Great to see you again, as always, at every one of these shows, and love to see your father and mom here, too.
Likewise. Thank you.
Well, hello, and I'm here with Paul with Merritt, and you might know them. They are a clock and watch supplier, and I'm going to have Paul share a little bit about the company and his family history with this company, and then we're going to show you some great products that they have for your clock and watch repairs.
Yeah, I'm Paul from Merritt, and like you said, it's a family-owned business. We started in 1938, and I'm the fourth generation, and the fifth generation has just started with my daughter and my cousin Rick Merritt, as some of you probably know. His daughter just started there about a month ago. It has been always family-run. It was never privately owned, and we're trying to still keep it going the way we are now. It's getting a little harder with these times to get the supplies.
I'm going to have Paul take us around and show us some of the great products that you can purchase, and you can purchase them online, or you have a catalog.
Online, the catalog's not up to date. We're getting ready to get a new one now. The best way is to get us on the internet. We have a very good website you can get, and call us up and we'll get it out to you.
And the website will be linked below and in the description too for you to check out. They've got a fantastic catalog of parts, and we're going to show you a few of those products today.
To start with some of our cleaning supplies, we have some waxes that we use, different oils on this shelf that we sell. This is just a minor selection of what we do. We try and bring a little bit of everything for the shows here, so everybody gets to see what we have.
So you've got the cotton cleanser, that's a popular one, and you
have this is all for mainsprings for the clock springs and the gears inside.
Pretty much about what anybody needs. And
yeah, we basically have everything from A to Z that you need to repair a clock or restore a clock.
And what do we have over here?
We have different things right down to winding keys for grandfather clocks, to these keys here that are different sizes. There's 5 different sizes.
Those are handy.
Yeah. We have letdown keys, different files. These are a unique thing. If you're into cuckoo clocks, we sell all the parts to restore cuckoo clocks. These are the bellows that make the sound. Anything from cord, we have brass cable, steel cable for the weights. We have some watch supplies. These are keys for watches and smaller clocks. This is actually a stand to hold a movement that you can work on.
You need a test stand.
Yeah, that's correct.
You just order one and it's pretty much ready to go, looks like. Don't have to make your own.
Right, here's some more. This is actually another big selection of things that we do have. This is the clock cleaners that you can use in the ultrasonic cleaners to clean the movements and clean all the gunk off and get them looking good again.
got them for clock and watches.
That's correct.
Okay. Let's come down here and see what else you have, Paul.
We sell a lot of battery operated movements, some with pendulums, some without. Just more products that you can use to polish them up.
Oh, the Howards. I like, that's a good product there. And you've even got stuff to resilver the dials with. Oh, that's terrific.
Again, here's just more things that we have, different clock oils, different parts like hand nuts for pendulums, some of the nuts for on the hands. We have a lot of tools that we do also sell. We sell lots of mini screwdrivers and different tools that you can use to restore the clocks.
Well, Paul, you have
A lot more different keys.
Oh, wow.
We sell hundreds of keys.
Wow. Even the hard to find ones?
Yes, it's been challenging for us to keep the supply up with the demand right now, but we're doing the best we can. We just keep switching suppliers around and looking for new products at all times.
Paul, is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, like I said, we're a family-owned business. We're trying to keep things going. I know there's a lot of people that are still interested in old clocks, and so am I, and hopefully the trade continues to go.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing.
Thank you.
I'm here with Earl, president of the Buckeye chapter
23
at the Southern Ohio Regional, and Earl's going to tell us a little bit about these special electric clocks and what makes them so special. So take it away, Earl.
Okay. First, I want to talk about the Strongsburg. Electrics were made in the very late 18s, around 1890, 95, all the way up to 1925, 1930. They were used, this type of clock was used in a manufacturing facility as they're interclocked for inside of the thing, so the employees would be able to see a clock in that. Then you jump over to this one, and you notice down here at the bottom, there's got buttons. These buttons run slave clocks. This was always in a president's office, and he runs slave clocks off of this through the factory that he could control with these buttons.
Oh, wow.
And they also used them in school place to ring all the bells around, and you could control them right here. If you needed to raise it a minute, you could press the button, raise it a minute, because it all worked through the electric.
Wow.
And that's why this one is a battery electric. It does have batteries to it, but it does run on 110 current. This is running on 110 current, and this is similar to this one. This one also was in a factory when I bought it. It was in a factory. The guy that had it in the factory, they closed it down. The old concern closed it down. They had an auction, and I bought it at the auction. And it's also the same thing as this. And they appear to be, the cases were manufactured probably like Seth Thomas, and they went ahead and sent the cases to the Standard Electric.
Can you tell me a little bit about the value of these clocks today?
All clocks have kind of gone down in value because the older people like myself, we're getting older, and we have large collections, and we're flooding the market. If we wouldn't be flooding the market, we'd be able to probably get more. Right now, I'm trying to get $550 out of this one. I don't know what I paid for it years and years ago, but it's been in the garage for 15 years, and it's time to get out. I've got a young wife that decided that she works 6 days a week, and I need to start liquidating some of the stuff so she won't have the problem. This one I'm asking $1,700 for. I'm already under the market, but I don't need it. I had them in the garage standing on each other, and this one I'm asking $15 for. And the only reason the difference between this is because of the buttons down here. because they rent slaves.
Okay.
And this one is also could have run slaves because it has the on and off switches in the bottom.
Oh, I see that.
So that's basically these here. Now, if you want to talk about the rest of them, we'll hit the rest of them. Want to move your camera? Okay.
This is a fantastic collection that you have here, and I think this is something that not a lot of people know much about. There was a period where we had battery and electric clocks, and I think these are some really rare and special clocks.
And the thing about it is, between the 1890s and the 30s and 40s, they used this kind of a thing to put in an office because of the beauty of it first, and the reliability of it. You lost power though, you have to change the time on it. But when you walk into a presentation, say I was in the grocery business, so if you walked into Mike Sell's potato chip, one of these would be in his office. And he could control where the workers are working.
That is really cool.
And that's the same way. And also schools. You go out in the principal's office, this may hang in the principal's office. And again, he can control all of the slave clocks that are all around the buildings.
That is fantastic. I'm going to have to get a shot of those buttons, and then we can film some more clocks.
Yeah.
So they just push one of these buttons.
It's a push button.
And this would, pushing the button, what would that do?
If this was in, say, down the hall A in the school, push the button, you could change the time on A clock in A hall.
Okay.
This might be down further in that same hall, but they would have a number 2 on the clock, and they could press the button, they could change the time on that. Number 2 could. This could be in another hall, this could be in the cafeteria.
Wow.
So that was the use for that.
Incredible feature for the time. Okay, you can start.
Okay, again, this is the self-winder. This could be, they made this in a full functional for an office, or they made this in a slave. This would make this move. But this one happens to be an office model. Okay. Because it has its own pendulum in it and stuff like that. Okay. If it didn't have a pendulum in it, that would be a slave that would be working off the button. Okay, that's the design of this. That's nice natural square dial and everything else. So, and then this is 1940s, 1950s. This somebody's painted the Buick over the top, but it's just a good running clock and stuff like that. This one is 1950s, 1960s, and what's so attractive about this is the background behind it. It's Cooper Tire. And auto guys that deal with automobiles, stuff like that, they love to collect auto-related stuff. And just like John said here a few minutes ago, he's from Indiana, I'm from Ohio, and that's what he wants.
That's really cool.
Plus the run around.
That's your second sweep.
That's your seconds. See how it goes has it go straight across, because it has to be balanced.
Okay.
And that's running around, that's your seconds going around.
That is a really neat feature.
Now, just totally different things like that. Then over here, they call this a Cleveland clock. Now, they made them in this style, and they made one with a disc in the center, which turns around just like this. All the time's turned around with the hand on it.
Wow.
This is the cap for here.
Okay.
That's why it's it. And what they did, this is auto records. So this is Smitty, so it would go up on the top, and this light coming out of here, because you can see it's frosted here and it's open here, that shines up into here to light this up.
Wow.
And that fits up on top of it. That right now, they make them new, and they sell them for right around $2,500 to $3,000. I bought that years and years ago from a guy for $250, and I've just enjoyed it. And I got 2 of them. So I got my son's bar. You go downstairs, all the lights off. That's on. It's got the spinner on. Of course, he took the best one, but it don't make any difference. It's still mine. So.
Well, that's an incredible find, Earl.
Yep. And that's made by Cleveland Corporation. There's their sticker on it right there.
Wow.
So, and now that's late 30s up to 60s. They still make them, but they make them today to put in dealerships and places like that. Because the first thing of it is, you turn all the lights out, it attracts your mind to it, and then with the lights on, it still glows, and it attracts you to think about something else besides the car, I guess.
Well, that is really something. And Earl, I want to thank you for taking time with me to share about your collection.
Right.
This is fantastic. And is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience today?
I'm just happy to present them to them, to give them an idea that how important clocks are. I went to a school just recently to teach the first graders, well, they were actually kindergarten first graders, how to read a clock.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't know how to read a clock. All they do is, when they're sitting at the dining room table to keep them quieter, they got that.
Yeah.
And now you press the button and you got the time.
Yeah.
So they had no conception of what these numbers meant and how to use them. And it was kind of fun being a collector all this time and have to teach somebody the simple design of a clock and why it was there, why they did it that way.
Yeah.
Because they'll never know it. They don't.
Well, maybe we can work on them a little bit and get them interested.
We will. And this idea of it is our club is getting older and we're always looking for younger people. And the worst thing about it is the older people are disappearing out of there that work on it. And that's the reason why we're working to get younger people in. We do have a thing that we can give them some money to go to a school and try to keep them in our location.
Oh, that's fantastic.
As a club, and we do that. We've done it for a couple of years, and we're going to do it some more.
Pass on this great wealth of wisdom.
Pass it on to get people to be able to work on watches and clocks.
That's fantastic.
Because we need them.
We do.
Because we're not going to be here forever, so I got to have them. So,
well, Earl,
thank you very much for interviewing me. I appreciate that, and I hope that gives you an idea of clocks.
Hello again. I'm here with Richard Newman. He is on the National Board of Directors for the NAWCC, and he has a fantastic clock to show us and tell us about today. And Richard, I'm just blown away with this piece, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, thanks, Seth. It's wonderful to see you here again. It's incredible what you can see at an NAWCC event. And this is an early French clock. It was made in about 1662. The pendulum was first applied to a clock mechanism from a design perspective from a man named Christian Huygens in the Netherlands. And within a few years, he licensed his invention to makers that were in the Netherlands, as well as England, and also in France. And within a few years, those pendulum clocks, the first pendulum clocks, began to be made. And of course, at this time, and probably for 100 years afterwards, only the very wealthy could afford a personal timekeeper, whether a clock or a watch. And of course, this is extremely, extremely early. This clock is made by a man named Theodore de Mar, and the clock opens this way to reveal the dial with the minutes around the circumference, and then the movement itself is connected to the back of the dial. And I think we'll have to take a close-up of this, a fairly simply and beautifully designed movement with these cycloidal cheeks on either side of the pendulum that is suspended by a piece of silk. And as I said, this clock dates from the early 1600s. There's similar models like this. They're sometimes referred to as a hay clock or religious clock. But it's just wonderful to have an opportunity for our members to be able to see things like this.
Well, Richard, this is a fantastic clock. Could you, close that? I want to get a close-up of the dial here. That is just, to think how many centuries this has lasted and its condition. It just blows my mind. Thank you so much for bringing this down to show us. And man, it's just, you never know what you might find at the NAWCC events. This is just incredible.
Well, thanks very much. And, you know, primarily we're all interested in education and having fun. And there's thousands of objects here where one can take a look. It's like walking into a museum, but you can touch. Thanks again, Seth.
Thank you, Richard. I want to thank you all so much for joining me at the Southern Ohio Regional. If you're able to, you should definitely come to this next year because it is fantastic, and you meet some wonderful people and find some good deals on clocks. My dad and I kind of filled up the car with clocks again, and anyways, we got some projects, and I actually found an English tall case that dates from about 1783 to 1800, and I'm looking forward to restoring it and maybe doing a video on it later on in the future. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and if you're not a member of the NAWCC, definitely go to their website. It's in the description. Check it out. Join, and I guarantee you will not regret it. It's just fantastic to be a part of this organization and meet terrific people. Thank you for watching.